I'm Mark Hall-Patton. I'm the administrator of the Clark County Museum System, and I want to welcome you to the Clark County Museum. Now, when you come out to the museum, I've got a 30-acre site here, but one of the first things you see is a very large switcher engine, the 4442. This engine has a very interesting history, and it's here for you to see, so let's take a closer look at it. The 4442, this particular engine, is a switcher engine. That's a type of engine that's used in a rail yard for moving railroad cars around and building up trains. This particular one was built in 1918 by the U.S. Railroad Administration. In World War I, the Railroad Administration was the United States governmental agency that took over the railroads in the United States and the production of railroad rolling stock. Now, none of the engines or cars they built came online during the war. This one actually came online in 1919, but this was the smallest version of a switcher engine that was built by the USRA. It is a 060. Now, the way that you number a railroad engine, it's the small wheels in the front, the large wheels in the center, and the small wheels under the cab. You notice there are no small wheels under the cab or in the front. That was because they wanted all the weight to be sitting on these wheels here, the 3 on this side and the 3 on the other side. That's why it's a 6. All you have is a steel wheel sitting on a steel rail. If you've got too much friction, if you've got too much weight behind you, the wheels will start spinning and it doesn't do you any good. So in this case, this was built to have a great deal of weight right here, and was a successful engine. This was actually in use until 1958, at which point it was given to the city of Las Vegas for a park that used to be where the state building is, across the street from Cashman Field. It was called Fantasy Park, and this was a display down there. When it was given to the city of Las Vegas, the Union Pacific actually laid rails all the way down to Fantasy Park and rolled this into place in Fantasy Park. Now, when Fantasy Park was being taken out of existence, they had to do something with this, so they offered it to the county museum. We said, okay, we'd like to have it. The only problem is, this weighs 162,000 pounds. You don't go down with a pickup truck and pick it up. So the city contacted the National Guard, the local tank hauling unit here, and they said, sure, we'll do that as a training exercise. So they came out with a couple of cranes and one of their flatbeds, and they picked up the engine and set it down on the flatbed and started blowing out all the tires on the flatbed. They had to replace some of those and bring it out here very, very carefully so they didn't continue to blow out tires. We're up on the tender here. We don't normally allow people up here. This used to be climbed on by kids when it was downtown, and of most of the adults I've spoken to who actually climbed on this as kids, most of them fell off of it at one point or another, so we don't do that here. But to tell you about this particular tender, you've got the engine, and this part is the tender. This is where you have the water and the coal being held. And one of the points about this is this was actually designed only for yard use. It carried very little coal, very little water, because you had easy access to coal and water in the yard. But the way that it's designed here with this dramatic drop off in the back was to allow the engineer to be able to see behind him much easier, because what you were doing is you were moving back and forth through the yard, and you wanted to be able to see what was behind you. You didn't want to run into another engine or another car. You wanted to find the one that you were going to actually be moving. Now you might wonder, how could you get an engine of this size to run? Well, you used coal. This is natural coal. You would use this. This would be shoveled in right here. These butterfly doors would be closed unless you were actually adding coal to it. You had water up above. You had the domes on the outside. Those were sand in case you needed to tamp down the fire for some reason. But this was actually what ran it. The engine itself was set up so that even though as we stand down here, you can't see much around you, you wouldn't be standing here if you were the engineer. you would be up on the side and checking out in front of you through the windows here, or behind you down the length of the tender. As you look down the side here with the back of the tender dropping off, you have a very good vision of what is behind you. So the next time you come out to the museum, be sure you take a look at our switcher engine here. Remember, we're open 9 to 4:30, 7 days a week. We're only closed 3 days out of the year, and that's Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So you've got some time. We're only $2 a head. It's the best bargain in the Vegas Valley, so come on down and see us.